Funny how people want to act like champions while training with borrowed confidence. My dear chosen ones, that's the quote they choke on, my dear chosen ones, because it hits where it hurts, right in the ego they protected more than the connection they fumbled. Now lean in, chosen one, because this intro isn't for the faint-hearted. This is for the ones who were played, doubted, benched, overlooked, and still walked out glowing like they owned the damn arena. Let me talk to you directly, chosen ones. You didn't lose them. Stop telling yourself that bedtime story. They walked into your life acting like they could run laps around your loyalty, like you were some pre-season warm-up before the real thing. They thought they were leveling up. In reality, they were leveling out. Because here's the truth that hits hardest. You were the championship game they weren't conditioned enough to play. You ever notice how people with no endurance love to sprint at the start? They act loud, confident, showy. Then the moment pressure pulls up a chair, they fold faster than wet cardboard. And you, chosen one, you were built for the long haul, the real weight, the late nights, the clutch moments. You were ready for teamwork. They were ready for attention. And now you're wondering, why me? Why did they play with something real? Let me answer you straight. Because people who never trained their heart confuse real connection with a highlight reel. They chased excitement, not effort. They chased applause, not accountability. And when they saw your consistency, your depth, your ability to love without needing an audience, they panicked. Shallow swimmers fear deep waters. That's not your flaw, that's their limit. But oh, chosen one, here's the plot twist they never saw coming. While they were playing games, you were leveling up. You were turning your pain into fuel, your silence into strategy, your heartbreak into height. And now the scoreboard is exposing everything. They thought they replaced you with an upgrade, but upgrades don't glitch under pressure. Copycats don't carry the weight of authenticity. Flashy rookies don't show up when it counts. And the person they benched you for? That was never a teammate. That was a temporary distraction with a uniform that didn't fit the league. Let's get metaphorical, chosen one. Imagine a team dropping their most seasoned player because a rookie looked good in warm lighting. Imagine benching the one who knew the playbook, the field, the rhythm, the game, for someone who knew how to pose, not perform. That's exactly what they did to you. And now? Now they're realizing highlights don't win championships, heart does. Consistency does. Depth does. And you had all three. Before we dive into the next part, my dear chosen ones, if this message is hitting your mind, your memory, or your spirit like a truth you needed but never heard before, take just a second to support this mission. Hit that like button, subscribe, and stay locked in with us. Your support isn't just a click. It fuels the energy, the research, the creativity, and the late nights it takes to bring you powerful, life-shifting messages like this. When you engage, it tells us, keep going, we need more. So subscribe, and let's build this movement together. They thought your stillness meant weakness. They thought your patience meant passivity. They thought your silence meant surrender. But chosen one, some storms don't make noise. They make impact. You weren't the warm-up. You were the win, the advantage, the asset, the force they were too unprepared to appreciate. And don't get it twisted. Their silence now, that's not peace. That's regret. Loud, restless, unspoken regret. They won't admit it out loud because admitting it means acknowledging they gambled a good thing away. But it's written in the way they lurk, the way they circle back in shadows, the way they try to recreate your energy with people who don't even have the blueprint. They know they messed up. Pride just won't let them confess. You might be asking, why do I still feel the sting if I supposedly won? Because emotional athletes still feel bruises, but bruises don't stop champions. They remind them of the fight they overcame. Chosen ones, hear me clearly. They didn't break your spirit. They revealed your strength. They didn't dismiss your value. They confirmed it. They didn't walk away from you. They walked away from the best chance at something real they'll ever get. That's the punishment. Not losing you, but realizing exactly who you were when they no longer have access. So let me say it loud enough for the ones in the back. They played games and ended up losing the championship. But you didn't just rise above it. You became the entire damn league. And trust me, Chosen One, this was only the warm-up. The real game, your comeback, your evolution, your rise, is just beginning. Chosen One, if this message is striking your nerves like someone finally turned the lights on in a room you've been silent in, then don't just sit back and watch. Lock in with us, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop 777 if you now realize they didn't just lose you. They lost their only shot at winning. Your support keeps this energy alive, keeps these truth-driven messages coming, and proves that real ones still exist. Stay right here, Chosen One, because what comes next might just confirm every single sign you've been ignoring. And now, let's take this step by step. Number 1. You can't copy fire and expect thunder to follow. You can't Xerox a masterpiece and expect it to paint the same history. Some people don't lose you by accident. They lose you because they miscalculated your worth and overestimated their options. Now listen closely, my dear chosen ones, because this part is where the truth goes from whisper to thunder. They didn't just walk out thinking they could upgrade. They walked out convinced they could duplicate you. Imagine that level of misunderstanding. Imagine believing a once-in-a-lifetime connection could be replaced like a pair of shoes that went out of style. They saw your silence and confused it for weakness, your patience and mistook it for passiveness, your loyalty and assumed it was automatic. They didn't realize they were holding the original blueprint, the rarest version, the kind that isn't mass-produced, reposted or remixed. Chosen ones, let's break it down like a spotlight hitting a hidden crack. They didn't just lose you, they lost the chemistry, the emotional intelligence, the depth, the calm, the storm, the intuition, the healing energy, the maturity, the ambition, the quiet strength, and the inner power that came with you. And now they're standing there with someone new, trying to plug that gap with glitter and surface-level similarities, wondering why the air went flat and why the connection feels store-bought instead of handcrafted. You might be thinking, but why did they try to copy my energy instead of appreciating it when it was real? Because, chosen one, some people don't understand value. They only understand availability. When you were present, they took notes. When you left, they tried to recreate the entire syllabus. They thought being around you meant they became you. They thought observing your moves meant they could replace your impact. That's like someone watching a chef and assuming they can taste like the recipe. They forgot the most important ingredient: you. Let me give you a metaphor to tattoo on your mindset. Imagine someone trading a rare handcrafted sculpture, sculpted with precision, time, patience, and personal history, for a mass-produced plastic decoration just because it looks shinier under artificial lights. But what happens when real life happens? Pressure breaks plastic, but pressure polishes art. And now the sculpture they tossed away, it's displayed in a better room, under better lighting, admired by better eyes. Chosen one, here's the psychological truth. People who chase excitement over growth tend to learn through loss, not logic. They think emotions have a refund policy. They don't realize your presence was a premium subscription they stopped paying effort for. And now they're standing in emotional silence trying to figure out why the conversation doesn't sound like it used to, why the laughter doesn't hit like it once did, and why the comfort feels temporary instead of homegrown. And just so you stop doubting your impact, remember this. When you are the original, anyone who tries to fill your space will always feel like a placeholder. No matter how similar the packaging looks, the results will never match the experience. You weren't a chapter they could skip or rewrite. You were the plot twist that changed the whole story. You might ask, why didn't they see me clearly when they had me? Because some people only understand clarity through distance. They only learn value through consequences. They only notice quality when flooded with quantity. They only recognize authenticity when they've tasted enough artificial. And trust me, chosen one, the taste difference is unforgettable. Now picture this. They're scrolling, comparing, evaluating, replaying conversations like lost audio files, wondering why the vibe isn't sticking, why the connection isn't deepening, and why the new chapter isn't giving the same emotional bandwidth. Because here's the reality. They didn't just lose a person, they lost a mentor in emotional intelligence, a safe space, a mirror, a motivator, and an unspoken understanding. Listen, chosen ones, let this empower you, not harden you. You were never too intense. You were simply operating at a depth their courage couldn't swim in. Your standards weren't too high. Their consistency was too low. You weren't a storm that destroyed. You were the storm that changed weather patterns, brought growth and tested foundations. Only fragile structures collapse under truth. So let them chase imitations. Let them wear your old energy like a fashion trend they don't have style for. Let them pretend they moved on when their silence speaks louder than any confession. You're not here to prove what they missed. You're here to evolve beyond what they understood. Chosen one, your value is not measured by who failed to keep you. It's measured by how far you rise without needing recognition. You are not meant to be recreated. You are meant to be remembered. And when memories start to replay louder than pride, they'll realize they didn't lose a person. They lost a standard. Now hold your chin up, because the world doesn't forget originals, it archives them. And you, chosen one, are permanent edition energy. Number 2, they spoke like lovers but felt like empty rooms. They talked like they had heart, but all they carried was echo and empty space. Some people claim they're built for loyalty until it requires weight they were never designed to carry. All right, chosen one, lean in, because this part stings in a way only truth can. They walked around acting like they were filled with passion, depth, devotion, loyalty, and emotional muscle. But when it came time to show up, step up, and stand firm, all you heard was silence bouncing around a hollow chamber where a heart should have been. They didn't just lack heart, they lacked the blueprint for it. They had performance energy, not presence energy. They had costume love, not committed love. They had the vocabulary, but not the comprehension. You, chosen one, entered with a full chest. Loyalty loaded, intentions aligned, passion at maximum volume, and love that wasn't measured by convenience or mood swings. You were there to build, not borrow. You were there to invest, not audition. And you thought you were stepping into something deep, steady, and meaningful. Instead, you dove into what looked like still water, only to realize the pool was 2 feet deep, artificially lit, and built for selfies, not swimming. Let's stop pretending. What they called love was emotional cosplay. They rehearsed affection like actors memorizing lines. They said the right things, copied the right gestures, and timed their sweetness like a scene director calling for charm. They didn't love, they mirrored love, and mirrors only reflect what's in front of them. When you stepped away, the reflection disappeared, leaving nothing but glass with fingerprints of failed identity. Chosen one, you weren't dealing with someone who lacked interest. You were dealing with someone who lacked emotional architecture. They wanted to be held, praised, comforted, admired, adored. But they never learned how to give any of it back. And you might still ask yourself, why pretend? Why move like love if you can't carry it? The answer is simple. Being adored feels good. Being celebrated feels addictive. Being chosen feels powerful. But maintaining that power requires self-awareness, accountability, vulnerability, and emotional risk, and they weren't equipped for any of those levels. Imagine someone inviting you into a house made of paper. Everything looks cute. The walls are decorated, the lighting is soft, the ambiance is aesthetic, but there is no foundation, no frame, no insulation, no weather protection. You didn't walk in trying to destroy it. You simply lived with your usual intensity, and suddenly the walls collapsed, not because you were too much, but because the structure was too weak. And who did they blame? Not the weakness of their foundation, but the strength of your energy. Your love wasn't gentle, it was real. Real love doesn't whisper, it reveals. Real love doesn't perform, it exposes. Real love doesn't decorate, it builds. And they weren't ready for construction. They were only ready for attention. You showed up with bricks, discipline, honesty, emotional stamina, and the desire to create something lasting. They showed up with tape, glitter, and the hope that pretty could replace permanent. Psychologists call it emotional mimicry, copy-paste affection without the emotional capacity behind it. Just like an actor can cry on cue without feeling a single ounce of real sadness, they mastered imitation, not empathy. They didn't bond with you because they felt you. They bonded because they needed you, and needing someone is not the same as valuing them. Chosen one, breathe this in. You were not too heavy, they were too hollow. Your intensity wasn't a problem, it was a measurement tool. You tested their inner structure without trying, and the results came back empty, lightweight and fragile. And now they're sitting with someone new who matches their level. Surface-level affection, shallow communication, low emotional stakes, cute but empty bonding, no depth, no challenge, no growth, no evolution. A connection built like bubble wrap, soft, safe, but impossible to grow roots in. They didn't leave because you were wrong. They left because you made staying real work, and pretending was easier than upgrading. Now they scroll through their days, replaying moments, comparing energies, wondering why nothing hits like you did, why the conversations feel short, why the connection feels scripted, why the comfort never turns into belonging. Because chosen one, you weren't a filler, you were the whole experience. They used to consume your love like a buffet plate stacked with free servings. But now the restaurant is closed, and all they're left with is vending machine affection. Listen carefully. They didn't reject you. They confirmed what level they operate at. So don't you dare shrink, dim, soften, or lower your standards to match their limitations. Keep your heart full, but protect it like a vault. Not everyone deserves access, especially those who think "I love you" is a cheat code, not a commitment. Hollow hearts echo, real hearts evolve, and chosen ones don't downsize, they upgrade. Number 3, they chose a pretty mask over a real reflection. They chose a mask because a mirror was too real to handle. Some people don't want truth, chosen one. They want something pretty to stand beside, not something powerful to grow beside. They want applause, not accountability. They want an aesthetic, not evolution. They want something that looks good, not something that makes them good. That's exactly what happened when they walked away from you. They didn't trade up. They traded out. They didn't choose better. They chose easier. Because easier doesn't demand change, and real change scares the hell out of people who are addicted to hiding. You weren't just a partner, a friend, or a presence. You were a mirror, a clear one. When they stood in front of you, they couldn't escape who they really were behind their curated personality. You reflected their immaturity, their unhealed wounds, their emotional shutdowns, their inconsistency, their patterns, their fears, and every piece of growth they kept postponing. You didn't judge them. You simply revealed them. And while that should have been their greatest blessing, they treated it like a threat. Why? Because truth requires courage, and cowards collect distractions, not development. They chose someone who could smile on cue, pose on command, and keep everything surface level pretty. They picked a mask, shiny, glossy, polished and hollow, because masks don't ask questions, masks don't challenge comfort, and masks don't require emotional evolution. Masks don't say, "We need to talk." Masks don't ask, "Why do you avoid vulnerability?" Masks don't challenge, "Why do you shut down when you're loved?" Masks don't call out patterns that sabotage connection, and masks sure as hell don't expose behavior that needs accountability. Masks allow people to pretend their unfinished story is already complete. But you, chosen one, you were never fake-friendly, emotionally silent, or soft enough to ignore red flags. You were built from experience, observation, intuition, and internal maturity. You noticed tone. You noticed patterns. You noticed inconsistencies. You noticed silence where communication should have been, avoidance where healing should have happened, and ego where honesty should have lived. You didn't offer them fantasy. You offered them growth. And instead of stepping into evolution, they sprinted into illusion. Now, picture them, chosen one, not the public version, but the real, private version. They're standing beside someone who photographs like perfection, who knows how to package affection for public approval, who posts captions that sound deep but don't live deep. They're with someone who can perform affection but not sustain connection. It's like hugging a hologram. It looks real until you reach for warmth and feel nothing but cold pixels. That's what they picked. Something that shines, not something that stabilizes. You might ask, but why would someone choose fake peace over real love? Because real love doesn't let you stay stagnant. Real love forces you to face yourself, your flaws, your fears, your resistance, your habits, your limits, and your potential. Real love requires effort, not performance. Real love requires humility, not ego. Real love requires honesty, not strategy. And some people simply don't want to grow. They want to be applauded for remaining the same. They told themselves you were too intense, too emotional, too real, or too deep. But what they really meant was, you exposed everything they weren't ready to fix. You saw through the charm they used as armor, the humor they used as distraction, the confidence they used as a costume, and the silence they used to avoid answering the questions that mattered most. You didn't scare them. Their own reflection did. And now, chosen one, here's the part that stings them quietly. Masks eventually crack under real-life pressure. The person they chose for convenience won't be able to hold conversations that require depth, navigate conflict with clarity, support emotional rebuilding, or build connection beyond aesthetics. Surface-level relationships run out of fuel fast because nothing grows in a shallow container. And while they smile for the world, they're starting to feel the emptiness between the lines. Let this empower you, not wound you. Being a mirror is not a curse. It is proof that you operate at a level most people never reach. You were not too much. You were the level they never trained for. And losing someone who forces truth is not freedom. It is delayed accountability. So don't envy the mask they picked. Masks win attention, mirrors build transformation, masks impress crowds, mirrors improve people, masks attract followers, mirrors inspire evolution. Remember this, chosen one, anyone can fake chemistry for a photo, but not everyone can survive a real conversation when the lights go off. Let them keep pretending. Let them get addicted to performance. Let them celebrate the costume. You, chosen one, were never made to be costume jewelry. You were a reflection with depth. And one day, when the mask starts slipping, they'll realize they didn't replace you. They replaced reality with a prop. Keep rising. You were never meant to be admired for appearance. You were meant to be remembered for impact. Number 4. Growth knocked, but they pretended they weren't home. Accountability never shook their hand, so they ghosted the mirror instead. Chosen one, let's sit in this truth without diluting it. You didn't lose them. You never stood a chance of keeping someone who refuses to face themselves. They didn't walk away because you were too much, too deep, too demanding, or too emotional. They walked away because accountability showed up, knocked politely, and they panicked like someone caught wearing confidence they never earned. They didn't outgrow you, they outran exposure. And exposure is something people addicted to image, comfort, shortcuts, and ego will do anything to avoid. Whenever things were smooth and easy, they were present. The moment real emotions arrived, the kind that demanded honesty, maturity, communication, and effort, they vanished like fog meeting heat. They loved the idea of partnership, not the responsibility that comes with it. They craved admiration, not accountability. They wanted someone who adored them, not someone who challenged them. That's why they confused emotional maturity with emotional attack. The moment you asked for clarity, respect, consistency, or effort, they treated it like criticism rather than connection. And let's be very real, chosen one, accountability is not, "I'm sorry." Accountability is, "I understand how my choices affected you, and I refuse to repeat that pattern." Most people apologize to end the conversation, not to change the behavior. And change requires internal renovation, not repainting old damage with pretty excuses. People who avoid self-evaluation rely on distractions to protect their ego. They hide behind jokes, confidence, temporary validation, social masks, flirty energy, or emotional shutdown. They use avoidance like armor and denial like perfume. They want love that feels good, not love that forces growth. They forgot that deep connections are not built in comfort. They are forged through transparency, accountability, and repair. They treat conflict like betrayal instead of opportunity. But chosen one, you didn't want perfection. You wanted partnership. You didn't demand flawlessness. You asked for effort. That difference alone is something many never learn. Studies in behavioral psychology show that emotionally avoidant individuals often sabotage their own happiness because emotional closeness feels like exposure, like someone seeing the parts they don't want to meet themselves. They fear vulnerability because it threatens the narrative they've built. "I'm fine. I don't need to change." So instead of risking transformation, they choose escape. Escape is easy. Growth is not. Imagine this scenario. Chosen one, you handed them a clear map, labeled, highlighted, easy to follow, showing a path toward healing, teamwork, and real connection. Instead of using it, they tore it up and said, "You're too intense." You asked for communication, and they called it drama. You asked for clarity, and they said you were overthinking. You tried opening a door, and they climbed out a window. That's not love. That's emotional laziness wrapped in cute wording. People like that don't fear losing you. They fear having to become better for you. Because growth demands responsibility. Responsibility demands self-awareness. Self-awareness demands honesty. And honesty demands maturity. They didn't choose someone else over you. They chose comfort over growth. They didn't reject you. They rejected accountability. They didn't run from the relationship. They ran from the version of themselves they would have had to confront standing next to someone real. Chosen one, hear this deeply. You were never asking too much. You were asking the right things from the wrong person. You wanted a teammate. They wanted a fan. You wanted evolution. They wanted ease. You wanted depth. They wanted distraction. Some people would rather sabotage a meaningful bond than admit they need to change habits, patterns, or coping mechanisms. So don't twist their avoidance into your inadequacy. What they avoided wasn't you. It was growth, effort, and truth. Let them stay in their familiar bubble where criticism looks like attack, where vulnerability feels like danger, where reflection feels like threat, and where relationships are treated like temporary entertainment rather than long-term construction. Meanwhile, you are stepping into a version of yourself they never had the emotional stamina to rise beside. And chosen one, remember this final line. The person who avoids accountability doesn't just lose the relationship, they lose the future they could have grown into. You didn't lose a partner, you lost someone who wasn't ready to stop running, and they lost someone who was ready to build something real. Number 5. They wanted victory photos without training scars. They wanted the trophy, but never showed up to practice. Some people don't fall in love with your journey, chosen one. They fall in love with the highlight reel they think you were born with. They saw the shine, but never studied the grind. They wanted the end result without ever understanding the price tag attached to it. They admired your confidence, your emotional strength, your focus, your steady presence, and your self-respect, but they failed to notice that all of it was earned, not inherited. They thought you just woke up resilient, woke up healed, woke up focused, woke up wise. They didn't see you crawling through moments where giving up looked easier than breathing. They never witnessed the nights you sat with your own thoughts like they were weights on your chest. They never saw the work behind the calm, the discipline behind the maturity, the battles behind the boundaries. They fell in love with the finished product while refusing to respect the process that built it. Chosen one, let's tell it how it is. They weren't actually aligned with you. They were attracted to what you represented. And attraction without effort is nothing but temporary entertainment. They loved the glow but hid from the heat that created it. They loved the confidence but ran from the honesty required to maintain it. They loved how you handled chaos, but never thought about how much chaos you had to survive to develop that skill. They wanted to hold the trophy, but they treated the training like an inconvenience. That's why they focused on shortcuts, not commitment. That's why they wanted comfort instead of growth. That's why they studied surface instead of character. You were building a long-term legacy, chosen one, while they were chasing short-term validation. You were pacing yourself like a marathon runner, steady, strategic, focused, disciplined. Meanwhile, they were sprinting laps for applause, trying to look successful instead of becoming successful. They played to the audience, you trained for the finish line, and when life demanded consistency, effort, communication, responsibility, and emotional stamina, they tapped out faster than someone who realized the gym wasn't just for taking pictures. They wanted victory without vulnerability, intimacy without accountability, partnership without sacrifice. They wanted the win, not the work. Imagine this visual. You are constructing a skyscraper. Blueprint, foundation, steel, beams, sweat, heavy lifting, stress, setbacks, calculation, patience, and engineering. Meanwhile, they're outside with glitter spray paint decorating cardboard boxes and calling it vision. They wanted the image of success, not the architecture. And now that their cardboard creation is collapsing under its own pretend structure, they're shocked, they're frustrated, they're playing victim, they're acting confused. But gravity didn't betray them, truth did, because illusions have the lifespan of cheap glue under heavy weather. You might ask, chosen one, why trade something solid for something shallow? Because shortcuts are seductive. Because validation feels like progress when you don't know what progress actually requires. Because some people chase easy, like it's better, not realizing that easy collapses and earned endures. They wanted the benefits without the responsibility, the results without the repetition, the transformation without the discipline. They wanted to cross the finish line carrying your achievements instead of building their own. And when they realized they couldn't skip the grind that molded you, they bailed instead of growing, not because you were too hard to love, but because they were too unprepared to evolve. You were not a quick fix, you were a long-term opportunity. You were the exam that exposed who studied and who copied. You were the real-life challenge that separates the resilient from the comfortable. You were the prove-it moment in a world full of fake-it-till-you-make-it. That's why they ran. Not because you were a burden, but because you were a mirror. You didn't remind them of what they wanted. You reminded them of what they lacked. And instead of leveling up, they downgraded their environment so they could feel tall while staying small. Here's the twist, chosen one. Finishing strong is not about speed. It's about durability. It's about staying power. It's about who can breathe through the uphill climb without blaming the mountain. While they were chasing shortcuts, you became the standard. While they were searching for instant comfort, you were building long-term peace. While they were faking progress, you were living proof of it. You became the marathon, the endurance, the stamina, the journey, the story, the blueprint they wanted to arrive. You learned to evolve. That's the difference between someone who wants the title and someone who becomes the legacy. And now, they're exhausted not from running forward, but from chasing your memory. They are out of breath, trying to replicate the connection you built with devotion, communication, resilience, and intention. Let them chase. Let them learn the cost of shortcuts the hard way, because you, chosen one, are not lost. You are advancing. You are not waiting. You are building. Your destinations aren't random. They are earned, deserved, and aligned with the person you've become through every uphill mile. They wanted the finish line. You became the entire race, and not everyone is built to keep your pace. Number 6. They built their future on wallpaper, not walls. They built a castle out of cardboard and called it a kingdom. Chosen one, let's dissect this with clarity, not bitterness, because your story isn't about revenge, it's about revelation. They didn't just invest in a facade, they moved into it, bragged about it, decorated it, and tried to convince the world it was better than what they left behind. They felt proud, confident, bold, like they finally made a smarter choice. They acted like they switched from basic to premium, from average to elite, from temporary to forever. But in reality, the only upgrade they made was from stable truth to counterfeit comfort. And that comfort had an expiration date printed on it from day one. Oh, chosen one, they genuinely believed they had secured something better, something easy, something convenient. They saw someone with surface-level stability and mistook it for long-term durability. They thought they had discovered gold simply because it sparkled, forgetting that glitter sticks to trash too. They walked away from the architect and chose someone who didn't even know how to hold a hammer. They traded foundation for decoration, forgetting that storms don't care how pretty your walls look. They only test how strong they are. Let's tell it how it truly unfolded. They wanted the image of success, not the work that builds it. They wanted a partner who required no accountability, no emotional maturity, no uncomfortable conversations, no mirror held up to their flaws. They wanted applause, not alignment. They wanted something that looked picture-perfect in public rather than someone who created peace in private. And chosen one, you were private peace, inner structure, real growth, silent reinforcement. They poured their energy, their time, their fantasies, and their public pride into someone who looked stable, polished, and convenient. But when real-life pressure applied weight, when discomfort knocked, or when truth tested endurance, that whole fantasy folded like a cheap lawn chair. What was meant to be a forever turned into a short-term spectacle, and now they're looking around at emotional debris, wondering how such a perfect choice turned into an instant regret. Imagine, chosen one. A person walks into a stunning model home, glossy tiles, marble counters, designer lighting, perfect paint, and they sign the contract out of excitement, not inspection. They move in, and suddenly the floors buckle, the paint peels, the ceiling leaks, the walls shift, and the house creaks at night, because it wasn't built to withstand real life, only first impressions. That's exactly what happened. They fell in love with staging, not structure. Meanwhile, you were never the model home. You were the land with potential, the architecture that could withstand decades, the design built to evolve, the kind of place that doesn't just hold someone, it grows with them. But growth requires patience, commitment, humility, and effort, qualities that temporary thinkers avoid like truth. They didn't want to build, chosen one. They wanted to pose. You might be questioning, why would someone trade depth for decor? Because when people lack internal stability, they chase external status. They care more about how things look than how things feel. They follow trends, not purpose. They choose what impresses others, not what nourishes themselves. And people like that always end up in situations where they look fulfilled on the outside and feel emotionally bankrupt on the inside. Chosen one, here's the most painful part they now face. Not only did their so-called upgrade crumble, but it crumbled publicly, loudly, and predictably. The same people they tried to validate themselves for are now spectators to the collapse. The same circle that clapped at the beginning is now whispering about the ending. And they can't blame anyone but themselves, because what you chase reflects what you value. They planted image, so they harvested illusion. They chose convenience, so they received inconsistency. They prioritized attention, so they inherited emptiness. That's not punishment. That's simply cause and effect. But you, chosen one, look at you now. While they sweep rubble, you're constructing blueprints. While they replay decisions, you're improving direction. While they cope with disappointment, you're rising through discipline. Your new chapter isn't built on fantasy, but on experience, authenticity, self-worth, and resilience. So don't envy their beginning. Your ending will be stronger. Don't resent their illusion. Your reality will be richer. Don't fear their temporary wins. Your legacy will be lasting. They may have built fast, but you are building forever. They may have chosen easy, but you are choosing real. And real never collapses. It adapts, strengthens, and survives. Stand tall, chosen one. Your foundation wasn't shaken, it was proven. Number 7. Their character was on overdraft and the bill hit hard. Morally bankrupt with no credit for real connection. Some people don't run out of money. Chosen one. They run out of integrity. They didn't just mistreat you, they overdrafted your trust, swiped your loyalty card, maxed out your emotional credit line, and then walked away acting like there would be no statement, no balance due, no reflection. They were living on borrowed affection with no plan to repay the emotional debt they kept stacking. And instead of taking accountability, they acted like consequences were optional. But life has a way of sending invoices when the room gets quiet and the distractions disappear. They're not just low on energy, they're morally bankrupt and emotionally declined, and deep down, they know it. They thought your consistency was endless credit, your kindness was interest-free, and your patience was automatic approval. They kept withdrawing reassurance, time, empathy, forgiveness, second chances, and access, all while leaving deposits of confusion, mixed signals, and empty words. You weren't asking for much: honesty, clarity, respect, and real effort. But to someone addicted to shortcuts, even honesty feels expensive. They treated love like a vending machine: press buttons, expect rewards, but never read the fine print. Healthy connection requires investment, not extraction. Chosen one, you are the kind of person who gives even when tired, understands even when disappointed, and stays solid even when tested. They mistook your emotional maturity for something they assumed would never run out. Let's call it exactly what it is. They were poor in accountability, bankrupt in empathy, low budget in character, and cheap in consistency. You didn't lose someone valuable. You stopped financing someone who never planned to grow. Think about it. They wanted love on credit with no intention of paying back in actions. They wanted relationship benefits with single-person effort. They wanted the championship win without training, discipline, or teamwork. And when things got real, when communication mattered, when responsibility was required, when honesty was necessary, they took the exit route because truth demands emotional currency they never worked to earn. Now imagine this. Chosen one. Someone leaves a secure, well-built bank because the rules require responsibility, and they run to a casino thinking fast fun equals long-term gain. At first, it feels exciting. Lights flashing, music playing, new faces everywhere, everyone laughing. But eventually the chips run out, the thrill fades, and the quiet hits harder than the noise ever could. That's exactly where they are now, surrounded by moments that don't add value, people who don't require growth, and emotions that don't hold weight. They didn't cash in, they cashed out. They gave up long-term value for short-term attention, and now they're paying in regret disguised as silence. And yes, chosen one, they feel it. Not always in words, but in patterns. In how new conversations feel hollow, in how new attention feels temporary, in how comfort doesn't reach their core anymore, in how achievements feel less satisfying than they imagined. That's not coincidence. It's emotional reality checking in. When someone walks away from a person who actually cared, they don't just lose the person. They lose peace, clarity, growth, accountability, and a safe emotional home. That kind of loss doesn't hit all at once. It hits slowly, repeatedly, and especially at night when no noise is there to distract them. They once told themselves they were upgrading, leveling up, choosing better. But reality has its own scoreboard, and time is the referee that never misses a call. Now they're replaying moments, comparing energies, questioning decisions, trying to figure out why the connection after you feels flat, why the laughter feels forced, why the future feels uncertain, and why the present feels heavier than the past ever did. It's because, chosen one, you were a long-term asset, not a short-term thrill. You brought structure, growth, patience, emotional strategy, qualities people only realize matter when the excitement fades and real life begins again. So let them sit with the choices they made. Let them deal with the emotional late fees. You are not responsible for the lessons they refused to study. You are not the recovery plan for someone who treated love like gambling chips. You are someone whose value is shown through stability, loyalty, self-respect, and elevation, not through chasing or proving you didn't lose anything. You ended the sponsorship. And now your life is gaining interest while theirs is stuck in collections, wondering how they managed to lose someone who wasn't demanding perfection, only authenticity. Keep rising, chosen one. You are emotional wealth, character equity, and long-term value. They didn't just lose you, they lost access to what real looks like. Number 8. The spotlight exposed what the sparkle tried to hide. The sparkles looked golden until reality hit like a floodlight. Ever notice how some people show up looking flawless under dim lighting, chosen one? Everything they present glows just enough to distract, not enough to inspect. That's exactly what happened here. They built an image, not an identity. They crafted a version of themselves designed to impress, not commit. It was rehearsed, polished, curated like a stage performance where every move was measured, every word was sweetened, and every moment was engineered to look perfect from the outside, and you, with your pure intentions and genuine heartbeat, stepped into that illusion thinking you were meeting a real person, not a character auditioning for approval. At first, it all looked believable. The charm, the passion, the laughter, the promises sprinkled like glitter in the air, enough sparkle to blur the edges of reality, but glitter only sticks until the room gets brighter. And here's the truth. Illusions thrive on darkness, but authenticity thrives in clarity. You didn't come into the connection with tricks or disguises. You came with your unfiltered, raw, consistent energy. They didn't know how to match that, so they tried to distract you from noticing it. Chosen one, think about a magic show. People clap not because it's real, but because they don't see how the trick works. Once the lights go up and the wires, mirrors, and hidden doors are revealed, no one applauds. They walk away. That's what happened here. The lights finally turned on, not because they wanted them on, but because your presence has a way of revealing what others try to hide. You don't expose people through confrontation. Your authenticity does it for you. They thought if they dressed their flaws in sparkle, you'd never notice the emptiness behind them. They thought if they kept you entertained, you'd never question the foundation. But chosen ones don't stay in illusions forever. Curiosity is built into your soul, and clarity is your second language. The moment you sensed a mismatch between what they showed and what they truly were, the spotlight shifted from admiration to examination. And that's when their performance began to crack. They didn't want honesty, they wanted applause. They didn't want accountability, they wanted audience approval. They mistook being watched for being valued, and they mistook imitation for effort. They thought as long as they looked flawless, you wouldn't check the structure. They believed their image would be enough to replace inner work. But illusions, chosen one, demand constant maintenance. And when the trick stops working, panic begins. Now look where they are, sitting in a quiet room with no applause, no spotlight, no audience, no distraction, forced to face the reflection they spent years avoiding. The silence they pretend doesn't bother them is the very thing tearing them apart from the inside. They won't say it, but they feel it. In every moment where the new connection doesn't hit the same, where conversations feel like scripts, where laughter feels forced, and where comfort feels staged. You might wonder, if they miss me, why don't they say it? Because admitting it means confessing they built their self-image on sand. Because acknowledging you were irreplaceable means accepting they underestimated a once-in-a-lifetime presence. Some losses don't hurt in public. They haunt in private. Regret isn't always loud. Sometimes it shows up as sleepless nights, broken focus, silent scrolling, and a mind replaying perfect moments like a loop they can't shut off. They tried to move on quickly, hoping speed would erase memory. But memory doesn't respond to replacements. It responds to impact. And you didn't leave a mark. You left a blueprint. You didn't just touch their life. You rewired it. And now, every room they enter feels slightly off. Every conversation feels slightly forced. Every new bond feels slightly artificial. That's what happens when someone trades genuine connection for surface-level entertainment. They downgrade in silence and don't notice until the excitement expires. Chosen one, don't mistake their silence for indifference. Silence is sometimes the loudest confession. And don't mistake their performance for peace. Sometimes the strongest actors are the ones who cry between scenes. They are not haunted by losing you. They are haunted by realizing how much of themselves they pretended to be instead of becoming the version you were willing to grow with. Remember this, you didn't turn off the lights. You simply lived bright enough to reveal everything hidden. They thought the show would run forever. They forgot that truth doesn't need curtains, props, costumes, or permission. The stage is empty now, chosen one. The illusion is shattered. The truth is undeniable, and the spotlight It follows you now, not because you asked for it, but because you earned it. Number 9. You were built for endurance, they only came for highlights. You were the marathon, they wanted a shortcut to the trophy. Some people don't leave because the journey was wrong. They leave because the journey required endurance they never trained for. My dear chosen one, let's pull back the curtain on this one with no sugar, no filter, no apology. You weren't just any love, any presence, or any experience. You were long-distance greatness in a world addicted to short-term entertainment. You were the kind of connection that requires pacing, breath control, emotional stamina, mental maturity, reflection, accountability, and heart conditioning. But they showed up like they were signing up for a quick fitness challenge, not a life-changing transformation. They thought the finish line would come in minutes, while you were prepared for miles. They didn't understand that real love, the kind you carry, chosen one, isn't a race of speed, but a test of character. It's not about how fast someone gets to the good parts, but how committed they are when the road becomes uphill, uneven, unpredictable, and testing. When things required patience, they tapped out. When things demanded communication, they ghosted. When emotional strength became necessary, they folded. And here's the part that stings them. You were never too much for the right journey. They were simply underprepared for the path you walk. You were built for consistency, not quick excitement. You were crafted for evolution, not instant gratification. You were wired for meaning, not microwaved emotions. They labeled you too intense, too deep, too complicated. But what they actually meant was, I'm not disciplined enough to keep up. That wasn't a reflection of your value. It was a direct confession of their limitations. You were never the problem. The problem was their lack of endurance disguised as preference. Chosen one, imagine running a marathon, shoes laced, breath controlled, focus sharp, and you look over to see someone beside you already panting, sighing, complaining, and checking exit signs every few steps. They didn't want the grind, they wanted the glory. They didn't want to evolve, they wanted to enjoy. They didn't want to grow through love, they wanted to feel loved without effort. That's why they bailed. Not because you were difficult, but because you required growth, and growth terrifies people who hide behind convenience. Understand this, a sprint is all about winning fast. A marathon is about finishing strong. You were focused on foundation, not fireworks. Fireworks look impressive, but they burn out quickly and leave only smoke behind. A sunrise, on the other hand, takes time, patience, stillness, and faith in the unseen, but when it appears, everything around it changes. You were the sunrise. They wanted fireworks. Never confuse their taste with your worth. Let's address the question burning in your mind. Why would someone choose temporary over timeless? Because temporary feels easier, lighter, and less confronting. It doesn't require accountability, reflection, or emotional maturity. Anyone can show up for the sprint. It's quick, thrilling, and ego-boosting. But a marathon demands training, sacrifice, pacing, hydration of effort, consistency of mindset, and recovery through communication. You were offering a future. They wanted a feeling. Their exit was not evidence that you were unlovable. It was evidence that they were unprepared. And when unprepared people stay too close to excellence, they begin to feel exposed, insecure, and inadequate. So instead of rising to your level, they escaped to someone who made them feel comfortable staying the same. Not a partner, a break room, someone they could relax around without having to improve, learn, or evolve. But here's the twist. Chosen one, walking away from you did not place them ahead. It placed them in circles, not progress. They didn't choose peace. They chose relief from responsibility, and temporary relief always turns into long-term dissatisfaction. Meanwhile, You didn't stop running. You didn't crumble on the track. You didn't let someone else's exit define your speed or purpose. You kept moving, and that is your greatest victory. Your journey is not measured in who stays, it's measured in who is built to stay. You didn't lose love, you gained clarity. You didn't lose a partner, you lost a passenger. The road you're on is not for those who want shortcuts, it's for those who value meaning, growth, and legacy. Chosen one, keep running. Your kind of connection is for someone who breathes with you, not someone who taps out when sweat appears. Your finish line isn't behind you, it's ahead, waiting for someone who can match your pace, purpose, and endurance. The right one won't run away. They'll run with you, step for step, mile for mile. And with that said, chosen one, let this chapter close not with doubt, but with clarity so sharp it cuts every old illusion in half. You didn't just outgrow them, you outpaced them, outperformed them, and outlasted everything they weren't willing to rise toward. Your story doesn't end with who quit, it continues with who aligns. If this message hit your mind, memory, or motivation, show it matters. Like, subscribe, share this video, and drop 77 in the comments if you're walking into your next level without looking back. Your elevation deserves witnesses, not passengers.